To monkey around means to do things that are not useful or serious, or to simply waste time. Now, in the United States, children do not usually have monkeys as pets, but they do often have dogs. And dogs make most children feel happy. But for some reason, a reason that word experts do not know, we use dog in a phrase that means to feel unwell. If you are as sick as a dog, you are really, really sick, and will most likely stay home from work or school. Besides dogs, cats are also a favorite pet here in the States. This next phrase combines cats and secrets to make a very common expression. Let's say you know a secret, a big secret. And let's say you tell it to people. You have just let the cat out of the bag. This idiom means to reveal a secret or tell facts that were previously unknown. If you let the cat out of the bag, you spoil a surprise. So, if your friend is planning a big surprise birthday for another friend, don't let the cat out of the bag by accidentally saying it in front of the birthday girl. Even though this is a very common idiom, the origin of to let the cat out of the bag is also unknown. However, the origin of our next expression is not hard to guess. If you are doing an outdoor activity, such as hiking in the woods or having a picnic in the park, what are some things that may disturb your good time? Bad weather could, and so could bugs. Crawling pests like ants and flying ones like mosquitoes could make your experience uncomfortable or annoying. So, when we bug people, we bother them so much that we affect their good time. This common expression is often said as a command, "Stop bugging me." Now let's move on to clothing. Of course, you know what a hat is. But did you know that you can wear many at the same time? If you wear many hats, you do many different things, even if you only have one job. For example, if you work at a small company, the owners may expect you to answer the phones, manage paperwork, speak to clients, and design the website. In today's economy, some people say it is good to wear many hats when you are first starting your career. While wearing my researching hat here at Learning English, I have learned that many languages use food in their idioms and expressions. English is no exception. Some food expressions have good meanings, while others don't. For example, being a couch potato is not a good thing. This means you sit on the couch all day and do nothing but watch television or play video games. People who are couch potatoes are thought to be lazy and boring. Life does not excite them. They would rather watch others live on a screen. Now let's say a friend of yours is a couch potato. You may wonder how he got to be that way. One day you visit this friend's home and meet his mother and father. While you are there, you see the parents are also couch potatoes. You could say, "Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree." This expression simply means that a child acts or looks a lot like the parents. Usually, we use this expression when talking about bad things. but we can also use it to describe good traits that are passed down from a parent to a child. We use the next two expressions when we have problems. One deals with your heart, and the other with your bank account. Sometimes in life, we run into serious issues. They might require a conversation with someone about an uncomfortable or unpleasant topic. We call this kind of conversation a heart-to-heart. We use this expression as a noun or as an adjective, such as a heart-to-heart talk. But perhaps having a heart-to-heart doesn't help to solve a problem. Let's say you are having trouble paying your rent. Having a heart-to-heart with your landlord may gain you a couple of weeks, but soon you will have to pay your rent. The only thing to really help this problem is money. However, money can't and shouldn't help all problems. Also, it's not a good idea to try to solve big problems with just money. But sometimes people do just throw money at a problem and hope that it goes away. For example, people having trouble learning English may try to throw money at the problem. They may buy classes, time with teachers, and the latest language software. But these things will get them only so far. To really get better, they must simply study and practice. Today, we talk about animals, and animals we eat. In English, these two categories often have different names. Pigs turn into pork. Cows turn into beef. Sheep is mutton. Calves are veal. And deer is venison. But why do we call these animals different names when we prepare them for a meal? Why is it pig on a farm, but pork in a sandwich? The answer is the Norman conquest of Britain in 1066. That is when many French words became part of the English language. Many of those French words related to the battlefield, such as army and royal. Many related to government and taxation, and many others related to food. When animals were in the stable or on the farm, they kept their Old English names: pig, cow, sheep, and calf. But when they were cooked and brought to the table, an English version of the French word was used: pork, beef, mutton, and veal. On several websites, word experts claim that this change shows a class difference between the Anglo-Saxons and the French in Britain at the time of the conquest. Because the lower-class Anglo-Saxons were the hunters, they used the Old English names for animals. But the upper-class French saw these animals only at mealtimes. So they used the French word to describe the prepared dishes. Today, modern English speakers, regardless of social class, have come to use both. The words deer and venison, however, are a bit more complicated. Etymology Online says venison comes from an Old French word from the 1300s, meaning meat of large game, especially deer or boar. And that Old French word comes from the Latin word meaning a hunt, hunting, or the chase. Following the Norman conquest of 1066, any hunted animal was called venison after it was killed. and probably because deer were killed more than any other animal, venison came to mean deer meat. The words chicken and fish remain largely unchanged. However, sometimes we use the word poultry when talking about buying a chicken, turkey, or other similar bird to eat. For example, a grocery store may have a place called the poultry section. But we don't use poultry when we order chicken or turkey at a restaurant or serve it as a meal. We simply say chicken or turkey. For example, if I want to order my favorite dish, which is popular in the southern part of the United States, I will say, "I'll have the chicken and waffles, please." I would never order poultry and waffles. Lesser common birds, such as quail and pheasant, simply go by their own names. The French word for fish is poisson. Some word experts suspect that poisson is too close to the English word poison to become a common food word. After all, even the food-rich culture of France cannot overcome the fact that eating poison might kill you, or at least make you sick. As a result, anything that even sounds like poison will probably be an unpopular choice at mealtimes. Today, we start by asking a question. What sort of friends do you have? The answer is probably all different kinds. So we will talk about different expressions that we use for different kinds of friendship. When Randy Newman sings, "You've Got a Friend in Me," he simply means that he is a good friend of yours. But what do you call someone who is not really a friend? You just kind of know them. Acquaintances are people you know, but not well. When using this word, there is often a distance between two people. We often use it when we want to state that the person is not a true friend. It doesn't mean that you have bad feelings about the other person. You are simply acquainted with them. In other words, you know his or her name, but that's about it. An acquaintance could one day be a friend if the two of you spend time together and you find that you have things in common. As the adjective suggests, a distant friend is someone you consider a friend, but not a close one. Maybe time or distance has come between you, or perhaps you know them in a limited way. Again, calling someone a distant friend does not mean you have bad feelings for them. Distant friends could also be mutual friends, people you know through other people. Mutual friends are friends you have in common or share with someone else. When we don't want to use the word mutual, Americans often just say a friend of a friend. For example, I could say, "Oh, I don't know her well at all. She's just a friend of a friend of a friend." You can add as many of a friends as you think necessary. Your childhood friends are the people you grew up with. Many people grow apart from their childhood friends, but some people remain close with those people who were among their first friends. Fast friends are people who become friends soon after they first meet. It's as if you were meant to be friends with each other. These days, there are people who are friends through social media. As social media developed, the word friend has also become a verb, as in this example. After she stole my client list, I unfriended her on my social media accounts. She cannot be trusted. Now, if you have friends who are important in the community or are extremely wealthy or powerful, you might say that you have friends in high places. These friends have power and influence. They can help you when you're in trouble or when you need something. Not all of us are lucky enough to have friends in high places, and that is okay. Sometimes it's more fun to have the opposite. If someone is no longer your friend, you can call him or her an ex-friend. The two of you may have had a falling out, meaning a disagreement or fight. And now you are on the outs, meaning no longer talking to each other. There's another kind of friend that I'm sure we've all had at one point, the fair weather friend. First, what exactly is fair weather? When weather conditions are fair, they are really nice. Everything from taking a walk to doing home repairs and playing sports is easier to do in fair weather. There's no driving rain, heavy snow, or strong winds to make things difficult. As an adjective describing things, the term fair weather means something is designed for nice weather use only. For example, in boating, a fair weather sail is only good for sailing in good weather. And a fair weather tent is only meant to be used when camping in mild, dry conditions. Well, the same can be said for a fair weather friend. Such a person is only there during easy, carefree times. But as soon as things get difficult, they are nowhere to be found. We should note that this idiomatic usage describing a type of friend is much more common than the actual meaning. One online reference guide gives us another definition of a fair weather friend as one who is helpful, friendly, or available, but only when it is convenient for them. So this friend will help you if he or she gets something out of the relationship. If not, you are on your own. Another online guide defines fair weather as insincere and temporary. Americans often use fair weather when talking about sports. When a team is doing well, fair weather sports fans jump on board. They want to talk about the team morning, noon, and night. But at the first sign of a losing streak, a fair weather fan jumps ship. So a fair weather friend will not see you through the bad times. That is why we have close friends and even best friends. This person will help you through thick and thin. They are often the wind beneath our wings, as the song says, meaning they lift us up and help us get to where we want to go. The word clue has an origin story that may surprise both native English speakers and those learning English. The origin of the word combines a Greek myth, a labyrinth, danger, and knitting. That's right, knitting. But first, let's start with the myth. In this story, a monster called the Minotaur lived in a labyrinth on the island of Crete. From time to time, people were sent inside the labyrinth as sacrifices. They could not find their way out, and the Minotaur killed and ate them. Except for one man. As the story goes, Theseus volunteered to go into the Minotaur's labyrinth. But before going in, Theseus unraveled a ball of yarn. He battled the Minotaur and killed it. Then he followed the yarn back to the opening of the labyrinth and came out alive. You may be saying to yourself, "That's a great story, but what does it have to do with the word clue?" Well, in the 1590s, a ball of yarn was called a clue, spelled C-L-E-W. Because of this Greek myth about Theseus, and possibly other stories too, the meaning of clue began to change. By the 1620s, the word meant something that will lead to a solution. After more time passed, the spelling changed to C-L-U-E, the way we spell it today. Clue continued to become even more widely used. By the late 1940s, someone who didn't have a clue meant someone who didn't understand something. Today, we commonly use this clue in many expressions. You can use it to talk about someone who doesn't know a specific thing, or about someone who is generally ignorant. For example, I am organizing a surprise birthday party for my friend. She doesn't have a clue what I am planning. When the guests jump out of their hiding places and yell, "Surprise!" she will be shocked. That is a friendly use of the expression, but it can also be used in a more critical way. For example, I could say, "I have a friend who was born into a very rich family. I feel uncomfortable when she complains about people who struggle to pay their bills on time. She doesn't have a clue how hard it can be to make a living." Instead of "didn't have a clue," you could also say "she is clueless" for both of these examples. Here's another example of clueless meaning a general state of ignorance. "I can't believe the boss made his son our manager. That kid is so clueless. He has no idea how this company works. We're doomed." That's an insult. Now, if someone is clueless or doesn't have a clue in the sense that he or she is simply ignorant, you can tell them angrily to get a clue. This is like telling them to wake up or to get with it. You can also gently clue them in. This phrase means to let someone know the way something happens. We often use it when something is difficult to understand or see on the surface. So if you are simply sharing your homemade apple pie recipe with a friend, you probably wouldn't say, "I'll clue you in on how to make this apple pie." I mean, you could say that, but it sounds much too dramatic. But let's say a friend of yours moves into the apartment building where you live. Now, many strange and difficult people also live in that building. You might want to pull your friend aside and say, "Look, if you want to be happy here, let me clue you in on some of the characters who live here." Never talk directly to the guy who walks his turtle. If you need to say something to him, just say it to the turtle. And don't hang your laundry on your balcony. The woman living above you will shoot at your dry clothes with a water gun. And whatever you do, do not play classical music after 6 p.m. Your next-door neighbor was a conductor in an orchestra and misses it terribly. You will hear him crying for hours afterward. Now, I hope you feel a bit more clued in on the different ways to use the word clue. Have you ever listened to a private conversation? Maybe you were standing by a door or in a hallway, and you heard people talking about someone else you know. And you could not help it. You paused, you perked up your ears, and you listened. You knew, of course, that these people were not speaking to you. They did not invite you to be part of their conversation. You invited yourself. You eavesdropped. To eavesdrop means you secretly listen to the conversations of others. Some types of people are very good at eavesdropping. Nosy people, people who like to gossip, and spies are all good eavesdroppers. The only difference among my examples is that spies get paid and could get killed for getting an earful. Originally, however, the word eavesdrop had nothing to do with spying or listening to private conversations. When it was first used in the 1600s, eavesdrop was the water that fell or dropped from the eaves of a house. Eaves are the parts of the roof that hang over the walls and shade the outside of a house. After more time passed, eavesdrop came to mean the ground near the house where the water fell. After even more time passed, eavesdropper described someone who stood near a house to secretly listen to a conversation happening inside. These days, you can be standing anywhere to eavesdrop. The word simply means to listen secretly to something said in private. English has another expression related to eavesdropping and the home. The walls have ears. This means to be careful what you say, as there might be people listening. Some word experts say this expression may come from a story about an ancient Greek ruler who had an ear-shaped cave cut and connected between the rooms of his palace. This allowed him to listen to conversations in other rooms. This form of eavesdropping became common practice with many rulers from many cultures. In English, the phrase, "the walls have ears," was first recorded in its present form in the mid-1600s. Now, if you like, or hate, learning English phrasal verbs, there's a great one for eavesdropping: to listen in on. Usually, our phrasal verbs have only one preposition. Not this one. It has two. When you listen in on something, you listen to people speaking without joining in, usually secretly. But not always. You can listen in on a class at university, or listen in on a meeting at work. These examples do not suggest that you were listening secretly. But if you are listening in on a private conversation, chances are you are listening to something private that does not concern you. You are not minding your own business. Now, maybe you were minding your own business. Maybe you just happened to have overheard a private conversation. Overhearing is more innocent than eavesdropping. You can overhear something by being in the wrong place at the right time. Now, let's listen in on two people talking to learn how to use some of these words and expressions in a conversation. And it's okay. You're not eavesdropping. I've given you permission.
So, Amy, I was listening in on the management meeting today. Our manager said that he's putting your project on hold. You're thinking about leaving the company, aren't you?
I haven't told anyone that except Anne-Marie. Did she spill the beans to you?
No, she didn't tell me anything. I just happened to overhear you two talking in the cafeteria yesterday.
Were you eavesdropping on our conversation, Alex?
No, I was walking behind your table and accidentally overheard what you guys were talking about. Honest.
Alex, it was a really long conversation. Unless you were purposefully listening in on us, I don't see how it could have been an accident.
Okay, I was standing behind your table. When I overheard you and Anne-Marie talking about your project, my ears perked up. So I stayed there and listened for a little while. Okay, for a long while.
Alex, you're such a snoop. Look, don't tell anyone. I didn't accept the other job offer yet, so no one knows, okay?
No one except Anne-Marie and me and...
Oh, Alex.